Okay, everybody. My name is Dr. John McAtamney, and I am the guest speaker for tonight. I'll get into my presentation and I'll just explain how we got there. So, okay. Everybody can see that, yeah?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So I call this the predicament of the profession. It's where we became confused about our purpose. And it happened back in 1962 when we got part of Medicare. And we basically got on the insurance, as it called, because it basically took us away from our philosophy. Now, the importance of the philosophy is Dr. Marinis said in his book from years ago, chiropractic devoid of its philosophy may be devoid of its essential reason for existing. And it's the idea that we are a separate and distinct approach to taking care of people's ills and helping people. So let's get into this a little bit. First of all, I want to offer about a little gratitude. Being the facilitator of this particular band of brothers has taken me places mentally, physically, and spiritually that I did not expect it to. I have met and made connection with a tremendous amount of people that have influenced my thought, held me to a different level of accountability than I had before, and have caused me to study more because I need to understand this amazing profession that we're part of. So I want to basically give my gratitude for everybody that's here tonight and who's been part of this journey as part of the Band of Brothers. Now, how did I get here? I rewind the clock and I go back to 2000. That's when I got involved in politics in the state. For 16 years, I sat on the board of the council, had a lot of different meetings, had to read a lot of different documents, made a lot of connections through that particular position. And I'm still on a lot of committees, and I see what's going on. Gary, who's on the call as well, him, myself, and Brian Ludwig, the reason that we were part of a committee that became aware of some of the changes that were in the scope bill. And there is a movement in our own state and in a number of states to remove the subluxation as a clinical entity, to remove the idea of subluxation and relegate it to the history bin. And if we look at what that does to us, I'm going to explain that from a business perspective in healthcare. So now every particular market has to have a unique selling proposition. And when you look at what we do, what would be our unique selling proposition? There was an old thing that BJ did years ago when he said, make people healthier. Well, some people get healthier, some people don't. You take care of people, some people's spines get better, and some people's spines degenerate. People feel better when they get adjusted, but is that the reason we're making adjustments? Not really. So when we look at our unique selling proposition, the thing that separates us from all the other professions is this the idea of subluxation and what the subluxation means. Now, to get into that, I went back to some of the seminal works. So we take a look at this idea of subluxation. Everything that happens in our profession, from you opening your doors to everybody who works for you, to all of the suppliers who basically help us run our businesses, everything, the funnel of the profession comes down to this idea of subluxation. You put your hands on people and things change, and you need headrest paper and tables, and you need carpet, and you need all these other ththings that make your office work. Well, Marina said, No philosophy, no subluxation, no chiropractic. Now, when I hear people telling me that subluxation doesn't exist, Dr. Rome in 2008 and 2019, we published a paper, 279 different ways to explain the phenomenon that we call chiropractic. That means there's 279 names of the lesion that we call subluxation. But the deniers will continue to say it doesn't exist. There's a movement, we just saw it in Montana, where they want to get rid of subluxation and bring injections in. There's a whole bunch of noise happening in California because subluxation is not in the law, it's in the regulations, and they want to remove it as well. Right? So when the deniers say it doesn't exist, part of the problem is I've had conversations with these people, and they say the most illogical, anti-scientific position I've ever heard. All the papers before 2008 don't matter. Okay, you're an idiot, but anyway, all right? Others will say it's a historical term. But the biggest problem when I talk to people, other chiropractors, is do they explain it to their patients? Do they use the word in their office? And can you define it other than a bone out of place? So I went back to Felicia and Riekman's 5-component model. Now remember, kinesiopathology, altered movement. So the way I explain that is you get a team of rowers in the right position and they're doing the same thing. They slice through the water, looks magnificent. Take 2 of those rowers out of that 5-man team, have them work differently, that boat's not going anywhere. Neuropathophysiciology. If you're around here, the easiest way to explain that is Long Island Expressway at 5 o'clock, right? Things don't move and they don't work right. Myopathology. When the spine does not move, the muscles swell, edema, and then develop scar tissue. Gristle in a bad piece of meat. Histopathology. Inflammation inside mediated by chemical changes because of the loss of motion. Substance P, bradykinin, catecholamines, kephalins, all sorts of stuff that happens, like a sunburn on the inside that causes that particular facilitated segment to become damaged. That all builds up into pathophysiology, where things start to break down and decay like tooth decay. It rots. So those are Felicia's and Riekman's 5 components, right? But when I went into his paper, the thing that really blew my mind, because I'd read the paper before, but I didn't get it the first time, at the area of a subluxated segment, there is a facilitated segment at the level of the cord. So at that area of subluxation, that cord is also altered. Hold on a second. The cord is also safe. Now, what you get also, because of the learning from the subluxation, proprioceptive changes and associated motor units ramified to the muscular. So the whole tissue starts to change and swell and become interfered with. So that local motor unit becomes part of this process, right? So the idea of momentum and the idea of people holding becomes an issue. And then we go back to that local and systemic histopathic changes, catecholamines, cytokine, substance P, all those things that become nociceptive, bad signals back to the brain. So we have a facilitated segment, interference back to the brain, proprioceptive changes, interrupted and altered neuroreception. So the body gets a bad signal coming back from that particular motor unit. So this is something I put up in my office based upon this particular model. Because I want people to understand that there's a momentum that we have to get cleared. Within 2 hours, you get detectable inflammation occurring in the spine. Within 6 hours of the loss of motion, the nerve swells, altering its electrical charge. Within 12 hours, changes in the end tissue function is detectable. Cloudy swelling starts at the level wherever the nerve is affected. You get cloudy swelling in the tissue that it goes to. Within 24 hours, cellular damage and death begins to occur. Within 2 weeks, early but still reversible arthritic changes begin to occur. And within 60 days, permanent damage has developed. So when people come in and say, oh, the other day I woke up and it hurt my neck. Yeah. How long ago did it start? Because when you take the x-rays and you see the arthritis, you know that this has been there for more than 6 days. Especially with people, Generation X and boomers. Oh, just pop it back in. It's not a bone popped out. It didn't make a crack going out, may not make a crack going in. And there's a whole lot more going on than you think. Dr. Kent, back in 2008, he brought out the 4D model: dyskinesia, altered movement, disafferentation, altered neuroception, altered input and output to the brain, dysphonesia, altered muscle responses, altered energy responses, and dysautonomia. Now, what I mean altered is these were reversible errors. He didn't talk about anything as part of permanent or deep changes that happened. He said that all of these things were happening in a particular moment at any time. Dyskinesia, altered movement, produces disafferentation. That causes the muscles to become out of sync, dysphonesia, and then dysautonomia. The autonomic system goes out of whack because of the changes that are going on, having to do with the afferentation. Now, problem is with those models, while they're effective and they have benefits for the practicing chiropractors, they come with risk because they have moved us into the world of treating neuromusculoskeletal treatment model. Problem is that this places us in the therapeutic mode of care. And in this mode, our unique selling proposition, the subluxation, that which defines us and sets us apart from all other professions, becomes a diagnostic term, one of however many codes that are needed to satisfy a biller. So in this model, we've been trying to compete in this model, and it places us in direct conflict with the PTs. What do I mean by that? These are some numbers that blew me away. In New York State, there are 22,000 to 28,000 physical therapists, and there are 5,074 chiropractors. In the United States, there are between 270,000 and 280,000 physical therapists in the United States. And at the most, there are 70,000 chiropractors in the United States. 70% of physical therapists are doing class 5 joint mobilization thrust type maneuvers for neck and low back pain. So when what they're doing looks like what you're doing, what separates you from the guy down the block who has privileges in the hospital and they're on all the insurances? Something that has to be aware. They're moving. October 25, 2024 in New York State, all physical therapists now must get a doctor of physical therapy as their minimum degree. That gives them the ability to become a port of entry. They do not need to have referral from a medical doctor. They are in the hospitals and the medical network of the allopathic doctors. So I deal with a lot of different docs, and the biggest thing I'm seeing is where the doctor will tell the person to go see the physical therapist before seeing the chiropractor for many conditions. I don't care about the necks and the knees and the shoulders, but I have people with headaches, neck pain, low back pain, pelvic pain, and the medical doctors are telling them to go to see the PT. That means they have the cultural authority on this model. We are not at the same level on the ladder in the treatment model that the physical therapists are. And as I just told you, they outnumber us significantly. Are we in competition with them? No. Are they in competition with us? Not yet. Bottom line is, people are looking at them because they are doing that class 5 joint mobilization, which looks like diversified. They're developing a myriad of training models for joint thrust maneuvers from all over the world. You know where they're getting it from? The osteopaths. The osteopaths in Europe are holding classes for the PTs in this country to basically study the hands-on techniques that the osteopaths have been using. They're creating training certificates classes in these techniques. So now all of a sudden, the PTs have certification in manual therapy. When was the last time you learned a new technique? When was the last time you increased your ability to take care of different classes of people? Now, the founders knew what they were doing. I'm not disputing that. So where do we go from here? Well, in 1918, pandemics in Oklahoma, there was 3,490 cases, and there were only 7 deaths. Why? The death rate with the MDs was 924 deaths per 100,000 people. The DCs, 25 deaths per 100,000. Now, what did BJ use that for? In Kansas and Oklahoma, that was part of getting licensure. Basically, to keep the guys from going into practice and having to go to jail. But where did we come to? In 2020, we were sanctioned against speaking for chiropractic and immunity. And why am I so passionate about it? Because the reason I'm a chiropractor is because my first miracle had to do with my immunity. I was sick as a dog, and medical doctors didn't help me. And when I had put my body under the hands of a chiropractor, that's what got me better. Parker College, Dr. William Morgan, big name, denier, Dr. Katie Pullman, don't read her. You should lose your license if you spoke about chiropractor and immunity, because there was no evidence. Well, some people took that serious, and ICA did some work, and they basically got the evidence to say why chiropractic affects the immunity system. Chiropractic gets people well and keeps the well from getting sick. Well, I just said that's the problem. No. Treating symptoms, whether it's neuromusculoskeletal or organic disease, is not the answer. I'm not saying you can't take care of the people, but you have to educate them differently so that they understand that we are different. Where's the model that works? Now, a lot of people on this call have read this book. So in Stevenson, subluxation is the condition of a vertebra that's lost its proper juxtaposition with the one above and below, or both to the extent less than a luxation, impinging the nerves and interferes with the transmission of mental impulses. MOPI, mental impulses. Subluxation has to do with the mental impulse. It has nothing to do with nerves, right? What travels in a mental impulse? Stephen said a foron, a unital piece of universal transformed by innate intelligence for a specific need, for a specific cell at a specific time. Now, we know that dead bodies have nerves. What do living bodies have traveling through the nerves that dead people don't have? Principle 2, he told us, the expression of this intelligence through matter is the chiropractic meaning of life. So when someone is subluxated, they have all this stuff happening, and Felicia and Riekman were saying they weren't wrong. But our mistake comes when we pathologize the subluxation rather than letting the patient know. The thing we call a subluxation in your spine and nervous system is affecting your life channels and your life expression. So I ask people really simple. Do you want to live with more life expression and vitality, more energy, or less? Once you open your life channels and they're optimized, how long should we keep them open and fully functioning? Our unique selling proposition with chiropractic is not the subluxation, but we need it because of what it does. Our unique selling proposition with chiropractic is life, more life than they have now. Why do people on mission trips need no explanation? The words "Mas vida aquí" and people line up. In Haiti, we were called the touch healers because we make them more alive. It had nothing to do with their pain or their condition. They got up off the table and said, "I have more life." One of my mentors, Dr. Dan Sullivan, says, "You want to do these things to make practice harder, forget your uniqueness. Stop telling people why you do what you do and try to look more like the medical profession. But if you want to make practice better, more fulfilling, do these 4 things. Know your value, get better results, communicate like a leader, and most importantly, in the wise words of John Wesley, light yourself on fire and people will come to watch you burn." That's an old Parkerism. So this is how amazing we are. This is the work that this is the power that we work with. Consider the speed at which a neurological communication of a signal to alter and or adjust any given physiological response can be sent. From its summative creation in the cortex of the brain to its reception and expression as a change in muscle tone in your big toe, a servomotor impulse can make the trip in about 5 milliseconds. This leads us to realize that the bones and the innate intelligence creating the body's innate intelligence creating adaptive motor impulses as quickly as often as needed can adjust the precise tone of the muscles in your big toe somewhere around 200 times per second. In other words, after you finish studying how the normal complete cycle describes a continual and ongoing relationship between the body's innate intelligence and its physiology, step back and ponder the significance of the fact that this actual, partially physical relationship, as part of its metaphysical, can change the body's actions 12,000 times per minute over each and every nerve fiber in your body. We are working with the power of life. Tell the truth. Yes, it hurts because the nerves are affected and your body needs more life in that area. A lot of stuff I said tonight might be challenging. A lot of stuff I said tonight, maybe you're not there yet. A lot of stuff you may have heard before. But I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for participation in the Band of Brothers. I want to wish you the greatest holiday season, and God bless you.
Thank you, Johnny. On mute.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Johnny.
That was
I
powerful.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nicely done, Johnny. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
John.
very
Good-
much, guys.
Thanks, John. Great stuff.
I appreciate that, everybody.
Thank you, Johnny. Right on
Thank you.
time all the time.
Thank you, Anthony.
Good stuff.
Great job, Johnny. Appreciate all you do for all of us all year round, and
Thanks,
you're a
Doug.
blessing to us in the
Absolutely.
profession.
Well, I see what's going on, and my job for 2026 is to wake people up a little bit. So this is part of it. I want to wish everybody a great holiday. The next meeting is in a month. As I said to Leo, we have a really good lineup set up for the first quarter of the year. So I'm excited about that. You guys need to reach me at any time. You know how to get a hold of me. And thanks for coming on tonight, guys. And if you need Felicia's paperwork and you want to read it, let me know. I'll send it to you.
Hey, John, I'm looking at you with the picture behind you there of Sid. And I have to tell you, what you just put out, what you just gave us to digest is this big thing that Sid has put forth. And I appreciate the bigness of you.
Thank you, Rick. It was really appreciated, buddy.
Thank you, John.
You got it.
John, I just posted a link in the chat room about a review of subluxation.
Yep,
It goes
I got
way
that.
back
Excellent. Yep. I'll grab. I have that on my research list. I'll send it out to the group.
Week, the last Band of Brothers meeting when we had
Mark Romano.
Mark Romano, yeah, he mentioned that guy Edward Harrison. I looked him up. I checked him out. He was from 1820s, and he was doing manipulations way back when in the 1820s. And that from there, I went to that article. So it's just
Well, what I'm excited about is this is where we're making connections. Dr. Rubenstein, who's the president of the council, when I had Mark Romano on there, because Mark's one of our one of the few people that has spoken for us twice. Greg was so impressed by what he heard. He's bringing Mark into the council as part of the philosophy colloquium. So we have a thing in the council where we bring in a speaker and they do 5 different topics. So Mark is going to be speaking for the council. So watch for those meetings because when you get something that's pure, drink from it as often as you can.
Cool.
Johnny, thank you, brother. Listen, got a question for you. I'm not letting you off completely that easy. So, listen, let me ask you this. When explaining to a child, because you gave us a lot of good heady stuff, what do you think is the most important thing
Perfect
them-
question.
for them
Okay.
to get?
So
Or how
like
to
I just
express
had a kid in the other day, and he was really interested in what we're doing. So I say to the kid, I'm really glad you asked. And it's important because I found out that you tend to be a bit smarter than your parents because you listen better. So I got a question for you. What lives in here? And they go, your brain. I said, perfect. And where does this go? What does it do? And they stumble around a little bit. They say, well, it helps me to think. And then, so I go, do me a favor. Wiggle your fingers. So they do that. And I go, how did you know how to do that? Then I break it down for them. I said, I spoke. Your ears heard me. Your brain said, oh, I understand that signal. I know how to make those muscles work. I can wiggle my fingers. That's magic. You have magic inside you. And it all lives in here. So when I work on your spine, and I'm going to do things with my fingers, move things around a little bit, it'll feel like I'm tickling you. But when I do that, your brain has more power and can have more energy. Would you like more energy or less energy? Oh, more energy. Would you like more power or less power? More power. So let's get you tuned up and plugged in so you can run around and make mom tired.
Dude, I love you. That was amazing.
It's great.
That was absolutely awesome. Thanks, brother.
Wonderful.
fantastic,
Hey, John.
John.
Hey, John, I'd like to add one thing in there that, when you talked about like the whole cord and the whole system that is facilitated. In the summer, I usually put up a chart that says summer subluxation, and people write on it. And I had a young child, especially in an open office setting, is wonderful. Looks up and writes on the chart, mosquito bites. And the patient sitting down said, what does that have to do with subluxation? And that child turned around and said, are you kidding me? When that mosquito bites you and it irritates your nerve system, it goes all the way up to the brain and everything is affected. So children get the picture.
They do. And I want to share. Mark Romano actually has a poster that I keep in my office. It's a big 24 by 36 poster. And it has the word subluxation across the middle. And it says all of these things cause subluxation. And then there's about 1,000 things on the poster. Mowing the lawn, carrying a package, sleeping on a pillow that doesn't fit, too hot, too cold in the bedroom, having to change a tire, putting on your shoes, like everything, like anything that you could think of. So people say, well, how did this happen? I say, look at that poster and tell me how many of those things you have that contribute to your problem.
Awesome.
So, so the idea is, some simple things. Make sure you use the word subluxation. I've heard 3. I took it up to 5 times. They hear it at the front desk. They hear it in my pre-consultation. They hear it as I'm doing my exam. And I would say, see this area in the neck? When these bones are subluxated, they tend to cause weakness, pain, spasm, and fatigue in these muscles and give a numbness and tingling in the hands. And what we also expect, if it hasn't happened yet, it can affect the sinuses and or the muscles around your jaw. So the idea is to make it as functional as possible. It's called touch, tell, ask, and teach, so that they get the idea that there's more going on than what they feel, and then you have testing that can show it to them. So that has to do with how many indicators of subluxation can you detail on an exam, show them, and then use on a visit-to-visit basis. You know, simply saying to somebody, your right leg is short. It was 3/4 of an inch the last time. You're better. It's down to 1/2 inch. Let's see what else is going on. And you look for another 2 or 3 indicators. This is better, but this is not. Give them your feedback about what you're finding, all related to subluxation and why their body is either improving, static, or not improving. If you have indicators that don't change, then you have to do something different. And if they still don't change, maybe there's something else going on that's outside what we're doing. They may have a pathological process that you're picking up really early. You might need to refer them out. I've had that happen. You know, one of my indicators is heart rate variability. If you know how to read the graph, somebody's way down in the right hand portion of that graph. They're in a bad place. So a guy came in, I did an initial on him. He was there. I took care of 4 visits. And I said, I have to see a change. I didn't say it had to be better, just need to see a change. He was down in the right-hand quadrant still. I said, I'm not saying what I'm doing is not working, but I think you have something else going on. I want you to go see your cardiologist. Just get checked. He went to the cardiologist, and 4 days later, it came in. No, a week later, he went to the cardiologist, and they immediately admitted him to the hospital for a triple bypass. And the medical doctor told him, whoever told you to come to the office and get checked saved your life.
Awesome.
And he came in to tell me that. So he had a whole bunch of cardiac stuff going on. I picked it up on HRV, but because my indicator didn't clear, I didn't want to be the hero. I said, you know what? I can still take care of you, but there's something else going on here. Go get it checked out. So knowing where, this is the thing, when you understand subluxation, you stay in your lane. What I see with too many docs is they're going to take care of everything. No, stay in your lane, do what you know how to do. If it's outside what your hand's going to allow, ask for help, send them out. There's no harm. Know what you're supposed to do, know what your role is. So when your subluxation's solid, you don't have to be everything for everybody. You know when you can release that patient and send them someplace else. You haven't dismissed them, because you're always there to help them feel more life. So I've had people that had cancer. One guy recently, he said, I know I'm going to die, but when I get adjusted, I feel more connected to God. And I think that's a good place to be if I'm on the way out. And I took care of him up 2 days before he died. So just know your role, know your lane, stay in it. Get off that ladder that the medical doctors and the physical therapists are on. It's not where we live. Too many people are trying to live on that ladder. They're going to displace us. There's too many of them, not enough of us. So anyway.
Hey, Johnny, another question. So in light of what we've been seeing happening in New York and the scope, where do you where do you see where we need to put our focus in the coming year, as far as an organization, as a council, a little different, and then personally, obviously you just covered a lot of stuff for where we need to be, but professionally, what are your thoughts? Anything you're concerned about?
Yes. Yeah. No. Well, this is more of a long-term thing in my head. I haven't figured out the steps yet, but it's my long-term. What I see long-term. in New York, those of us who give a shit need to be part of the changes because I am tired of hearing from the other side that subluxation doesn't exist or it's a historical concept. So we need to be rock solid in the science of subluxation, the art of analyzing it, and the impact on the body and the physiology. So connecting, the council needs to connect more with Heidi Havik and that whole process on brain function. Katie Ruffalo, she needs to have more input to the council because we need to be more aware of what our dangers are. So Anthony, I'm speaking to you directly. But the idea is we get really solid in this idea of what subluxation does and have the science on it. The ICA basically got all of Sue's research. Remember him? Dr. Sue?
Yeah.
Weight of a dime
Colorado.
on a nerve, right? That whole thing.
Colorado State.
Colorado State. So before he retired, they got all his stuff. They bought it. They're still in the process of putting it together. I know that some of the guys from the philosophy program, Lal Koch and a few guys are aware of it and looking at it because I'm on those calls. Some of the other guys in different councils are looking at it to see where it fits in, where the meat is. But when Sue turns around, he's a researcher, Colorado State, and goes, I don't understand why chiropractors have such a problem with subluxation. It's as big a clinical entity as diabetes and cardiac problems because it changes the way the body works. Your body cannot work effectively or effectively or efficiently if you're subluxated, and it impacts all of the other systems. So when you got a guy who's a PhD level researcher and he says that, why are people closed-mouthed about what it is that we do?
Ignorance, brother.
Well,
Oh, it's
this whole
also
process, this
suppressed.
idea,
Lack
it's
of knowledge.
it's suppression, it's apathy, it's ignorance. But the idea is, this organization in New York State, the council, and I'll talk to Anish Bajaj about it because he's on that committee. We need to have more alignment with the people in the profession that are doing the real scientific work, and the people that are understand the philosophy at a diplomate level. And there was an old thing we had years ago, nuts and bolts. Remember that years ago?
Yes.
It had to do with practice management.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a thing that the ICA had. It was clinical sciences. Remember that, Gary? I think you were doing that for a while.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So that idea. Now I asked them about it, and they said there was another committee doing it, and it really has to do with sport medicine. That's not what I'm thinking. But the idea is this idea of becoming really clinically proficient in subluxation analysis, explanation, and the impact of what that does on the human body. And if we can do that as an organization, when the other organization says, well, it's a historical concept, we can turn around and say, no, we'd like to address that. It's not, this is why, here's the science, here's the understanding. And if we can start to do that and write a couple of position papers, so you asked me what we need to do, we need to get the stuff together and write a couple of position papers that we can use as reference as an organization. Jeff, you should probably participate in this, is from the Pennsylvania position. These white papers, reference papers, that we can use as a document to say, we've done our work, here it is, we'll give it to you, so you understand this. So when you go to meet a legislator, you're more equipped to talk to them about, this is why we need to be part of the programs, and it's not because we're replacing anybody else, or we are different. And what we do is different, and we're not replicatable. Those are the words we need to use over and over and over and over again. So
We need to get cultural authority in that, in overall human function and performance, and let them.
Oh, isn't that the words we used?
Yeah, let them be relegated to mechanical manipulation for pain and dysfunction, and then we got to make allow the the profession to make their own separation. So,
If it happens, it happens. The bottom
Yeah.
line is, if it's not us, who?
yeah,
And when you know the truth, right? There's an old couplet, Goethe said, the deepest, darkest places in hell are reserved for those who know and never tell.
Hmm.
So, I got to meet my maker. I don't want to tell him I kept my light under a bushel basket. So I'm doing what I can to brighten it up and lift it up.
love it.
Right on.
All
Thank
right,
you,
guys.
brother.
Yeah.
You're
Thank
the
you.
best.
Have a great one.
Thank you, Johnny.
Great on.
Have a good
Thanks
night,
for your
guys.
time.
Thank
Have a good night.
you.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Hey,
Happy Hanukkah. Happy
Happy
New Year.
Hanukkah. Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
Be
Happy
Happy
well.
holidays,
Be
holidays,
everyone.
safe.
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah,
Love
thank
you, brother.
John. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays,
Yeah,
guys.
take care, guys.
Happy holidays.